Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We'll get to the JRC in a moment, but first, the disclaimers and the trigger warnings. But before we do, yes, legislative watch has finally ended. And as unfortunately I had already predicted, the bill did go ahead and pass. Now, that doesn't mean I'm giving up. Oh no. No, GOP. You just took the fire that was lit under my ass and threw gasoline on it. So congratulations. I am about to pull every favor that I have ever accrued. And quite frankly, there's a whole lot of them I have accrued through the years to make sure that the individuals who voted to pass this bill under the false premise that our tax money was subsidizing illegal immigrants, a lie, because you cannot get access to those programs if you do not have documents showing that you are legally in the country when you actually do an application to get into those programs. If you don't believe me, do you GOP believe yourselves? But you see, this is not a leftist website, as you can see. This is the official website of the United States government, USDA, where right here in the good old-fashioned black and white, SNAP is not, has never been available to undocumented non-citizens. It said the same for Medicaid and Social Security. Yeah, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure not only are you never going to be in office on a national setting again, I don't want you to even be able to get a political office in your own hometown. So I'm going to be going to work, doing what I do best. Good luck! And that's all I'm going to say on it right now. I'm still a little bit emotional in regards to it, and I'm going to wait until I am able to get myself calmed down, logical and rational again, before I A, get to work like I just said, and B, do it in such a manner that my judgment is not going to be clouded, which it can be when it's on subjects that I feel this strongly about. Once I do, more than likely, I will probably be hosting the first live our channel has had in quite some time. And I am going to be continuing the series that we have started on this channel, because I want to be able to continue to show individuals just how wrong they are in regards to how much they think they're going to be saving, and how much the GOP is telling you porky pies to get you to agree with their insanity. Okay? Good. Disclaimers. Alright, folks, if you are unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, pertinent links are going to be right there in the description box with you with corresponding labels. That way, if you ever want to deep dive the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center on your own, you'll definitely be able to do so. Trigger warnings. This channel is marked not for kids for a reason. First of all, I very obviously use profanity. And also, when we speak on places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center, Kinnicook Camp, Circle of Hope, Agape Boarding School for Boys, Tobin World, and all places like it, you're going to hear some vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of people with mental health issues, and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you got someone that is 16 and younger and they are watching this channel, parental supervision is advised. Now, on this particular comment, I had to do a little bit of digging. You're going to see exactly why here in a moment. But before we get started, you can see that this is an individual who is an MD. Diplomate American Board of Psychiatry and Neurology out in Oakland Gardens, New York. Ilana, you are a medical doctor. What you are not is a neurologist. You are not a psychiatrist. You are not a psychologist. You are not a case manager, a social worker, or an individual with a developmental disability. Which means, even though you are a doctor, you are not an expert in this field. That would be along the lines of me going to talk about my mental health problems with my primary care physician. That is not something my primary care physician was trained to do. Is my psychologist and my general practitioner both doctors? Yes. Do both of them have specialties? Yes. Does being a medical doctor give you any special particular insight to the field of those of us with developmental disabilities? Not even remotely. General practitioners, or MDs, are taught very base level knowledge when it comes to people who are neurodivergent. You know about what the signs of autism are. You know how to refer individuals to specialists to be properly diagnosed. That's pretty much where it ends and begins. So just because you may have letters behind your name and you can call yourself a doctor, doesn't mean that you have some kind of special insight that those of us who actually are autistic and have actually worked in this field, of which case I am both, your insight into this matter is not better than mine just because you are an MD, ma'am. That is what we call an appeal to authority. It's one of the oldest tricks in the book. It's a way to get people to look away from individuals like me by saying, but look, I'm a doctor. I'm a professional. It's tired. Okay? Quite literally no one's buying it. But being that you are an MD, a primary care physician, let me, Ilana, ask you a question. If you were to have one of your patients walk in one day to be treated for second and third degree burns that you can clearly see all over their body, and when you ask them where they received these injuries, they tell you that it is from the GED device. Are you going to tell that child to suck it up, continue to take it, because it's helping them with their behaviors? Because if your answer is yes to that question, you should have your license yanked. And you should not be allowed within 50 yards of working inside any type of medical practice. Point blank. Point blank. Ends do not justify the means. Now, I know that might be confusing to an individual who's just an MD and has no idea how that form of treatment can psychologically affect and actually make worse the types of behaviors that you use to victim blame your own brother? But believe me, as an individual who actually has worked inside the field in one capacity or another for damn near almost 20 years, I can tell you firsthand from my own experience and secondhand from experience working within this field exactly how devastating an impact that can have on a human being. I wanted to cover that first because nothing pisses me off more than individuals who throw their doctorates, their degrees, and their certifications around that somehow they think that that makes them more special and more of an expert than everybody else. Newsflash, you are not. Nor does being someone who has the word doctor in front of your name make you an expert in every single part of medicine. It's the arrogance that gets me. Okay? I'm not going to read this whole thing because it's a whole rehashing of everything that JRC has said, and quite frankly, we've all dealt with more than enough of watching people character assassinate and victim blame the poor individuals who are stuck on these devices. I managed to catch this individual on something. See, right in the middle here, she says, in section V, in your evaluation discussion of information, you neglected the 2019 PhD dissertation, Aversives, Risks and Ethics of Aversive or Positive Therapy in Identical Twins, which came from WaldenU.edu. I had not seen this study, and I have been harping on how there was no current study that I had seen from anyone doing clinical studies that had no connections to the JRC who stood on their side. And I'm willing to eat my words if it can be proved otherwise. So I did some digging. Here is what they provided. Looks like a regular clinical study, yes. About it being Walden EU. Does Walden University have a campus where they conduct studies on aversive therapy? Once I show you this, I'll then show you why, after researching Walden U, why I asked that question. Based on provided information, it is unlikely that Walden University has a physical campus where they conduct studies on aversive therapy themselves. They are based out of Minnesota, and they are supposed to be an online school. I'll show you that here in a moment. But let me read that again. Based on provided information, it is unlikely that Walden University has a physical campus where they conduct studies on aversive therapy. Here's why. Let's continue to read, shall we? Walden University does not sponsor or oversee interventions. Walden's research ethics guidelines indicate that they do not approve prospective designs where researchers recruit participants for intervention or research. Students are responsible for the research component. Walden emphasizes a clear separation between intervention and research activities, with students solely responsible for the research aspect and not involved in the intervention component. In other words, in regards to this so-called Walden EU study, the student was responsible for conducting that study. It was not done in a clinical research center on Walden EU campus, because Walden EU campus doesn't exist, which means whatever research was done from that little thing that I just showed you did not happen on the Walden EU premises, because it's online. Which means, who are these individuals then that conducted this study? Well, if you take a look here, Massachusetts, Long Island University. Wouldn't you know it? A whole bunch of individuals from the East Coast, relatively close to the Judge Rotenberg Center. So, do any of these individuals that took part in this study have any connections to Judge Rotenberg Educational Center? I don't know. I haven't dug that deeply yet. But I found this particularly disturbing, that when I went to pull up Walden EU because of what looks like an official study, things are not as they appear. And this is why I try to get you all to always dig deeper. Never accept just the headlines. Always do some digging on your own. Because what looks like a normal study, much like pretty much everything else that defends the JRC, there's enough holes in it to drive a Mack truck through. So, this attempt of saying, but here's a study, and I'm a doctor, is not working any more than victim blaming your brother and saying that only violence works. Maybe stick to being a medical doctor and leave the work in this particular field to individuals who are certified and have gone to school for it, and to the advocates who are the real experts, because literally we live it every day. And as to that line, but you've never been as severe as them, because you didn't see me when I was a child does not mean that I did not go through some of the same things. Nor does my calm demeanor that you see now, and that I am very good at projecting into the public, mean that I did not have some severe self-injurious behaviors myself when I was younger. What you're seeing is an effect of what happens when you use modern mental health programs and techniques properly. And I can also say that from a professional standpoint, because I've been within the service system and I've been employed by the service system. So I have seen it from both sides. The study you put up to defend your position, as soon as I gave it even the smallest bit of scrutiny on nothing more than the university's name, it fell apart without me even really putting that much effort into it. So I don't know. But maybe read the room. Maybe understand that acting holier than thou with your MD and throwing around studies from a purely online college and then saying, but it's a university sponsored clinical study, when in actuality not only is it not, but it is explicitly stated by said school that they are unable to do those things because they are an online campus. Maybe think about that first. Alright? We're going to close on that one, folks. We don't get very many views on this channel, and the few we do tend to get removed from time to time. Don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, don't forget to hit the comments, and make sure you hit the bell, and make sure you have your notifications up for the channel, because especially after this bill passed, we're going to be still continuing on with those other series. Today we are going to go back into Social Security, and tomorrow Medicaid, and Sundays are for Section 8. I appreciate your time, and as always, we here at Spelling Tea hope you have a good one. Bye-bye, everyone.